before I go into it, I would want to say brief few notes about me and CAFT. And essentially, most important part is to realize what Cambodia Association of Finance Technology is trying to accomplish. I started maybe 10 to 15 years ago in a technology industry in aviation engineering, switched to finance management, and then get myself into fintech and spent most of my fintech career in Cambodia. Together with colleagues of mine and with a group of fintech enthusiasts, we started Cambodian Association of Finance Technology, which stands for Collaboration, Advocacy, Facilitation, and Teaching. I hope that today's presentation and today's keynote remark will show you globally, as well as for the audience in Cambodia, what central bank, what associations of banks in Cambodia, what Cambodia Associations of Finance Technology are trying to accomplish towards the financial inclusion. So, before I head ahead, I would want to ask you 3 questions. If you imagine fintech, what do you see in your mind's eye? If you hear word fintech, what do you hear in your inner thoughts? If you think of Cambodia or about Cambodia, what is first thing that comes to your mind? To many, at least in the region and circles where I am from, and by from I mean where I reside at now, fintech is an e-wallet company, it is payment gateway, it is a banking solution, but ultimately I don't think so that we can put one single inscription beyond what fintech is. Or in worst case, I think that we often put oversimplistic, overused terminology into fintech, similar to blockchain, smart cities, ICOs, and other fancy words. I have nothing against those words, but often those words covering multi-complex topics and problems behind one explanation, seemingly offering ultimate solution or an answer, if you wish, to everything. But before we go ahead, or today's session, I would want to challenge you to a different perspective. Fintech to me, and many of my colleagues and peers, means much more than one word. And it is unfair to give it one single meaning utilized any time by thinking how little it is, or how much it is and how much it is not. As I mentioned, I have been blessed to be involved with technology in the major part of my professional life. But back then, when I started, imagine 10, 15 years ago, I had no idea that perhaps I was already involved in fintech. Then when I started the fintech business in its real sense, I have never ceased to surprise myself what fintech already does. More I learn about it, more I started to see its utilization. More I started to see its benefit, its reach, its potential, and more I expected about it. But then I hit the ground. I hit the ground because I realized I expected way too much. Sometimes I expected way too little. I always bogged myself into being a fintech guy out of those payment guys, that niche market, trying to partner with big banks, trying to be out there with the big players. Yet at the same time, I was looked at as that I'm their competitor. And then I saw it. I saw it clearly, mainly through the Cambodian example. I was not in fintech. I was not the fintech guy. I was but a mere part of it. And I was not alone in this perception. When we look at what fintech is, we can make it easier for ourselves, and we can start looking where fintech is. And then it hits you. Is fintech part of payment gateways? Sure, absolutely. Is fintech an e-wallet? Yes. But what about, is fintech an accounting system, ideally connected through some billing API to banking for payment facilitation? Absolutely, why not? Or even more, like, is fintech supply chain solution, again connected to the banking system for effect, well, rather for efficiency? Of course, it can be. Insurance application with payment collections, absolutely. Supply chain solutions, yes. I know we often call it insurtech. We can call it accounting solution. We can call it banking solution. We can call it e-commerce. We have many names for it. But to me, in nearly every user or business journey, there's a payment element to it. In the beginning or mainly in the end, but it is there. So if I ask you what fintech is, and hypocritically I would answer fintech is everything, but trying not to put that one word explaining what fintech is, I would ask where fintech is, and I would say fintech is everywhere. So, third question I asked you today was, what comes to your mind when you think about Cambodia? And that's where real fun begins. Why I'm so excited talking about Cambodia is because if you ask many other people, they tell you, especially in professional circles, they would tell you Cambodia is cash-based country. Cambodia is country with a lot of low-skilled labor. Cambodia is country with disturbed history. Sure, and it can be many of those things. And I could perhaps thought the same if I'm not here. But since I've came here, I've seen Cambodia for its history. I've seen Cambodia for its talent, for its culture, for its potential and reach. And what this country did not have, and what this country does not have, what this country lacked or what this country lacks, it adds in its people ability to adjust, to adapt, to collaborate, and to grow. And to me, emotionally as well as professionally, it manifested itself in everywhere I could find fintech. Cambodia is perfect example of cash can be a king, but people can still optimize. Imagine country so much cash-based as Cambodia. People say 60%, 70%, 80% unbanked. There is tons of statistics behind it. Having dual currency system even further bolsters it, this notion of cash-based country. And let's face it, you know, if I'm not promoter of fintech and I have to decide putting my phone from my pocket, opening the application, tapping on scan QR, scanning the QR, typing the PIN code, versus I'm taking those $2 out of my pocket and paying, aside of now COVID situation, and we know that we should not be using nodes so much, and we're heading more towards digitalization. It's simply hard to explain to mass population that fintech is good and fintech is beneficial for them. Yet, this part did not let Cambodians stay aside of adoption, of fintech adoption. Imagine, and I think on the screen you see typical example from Cambodian streets. You come to a rundown shop on alleyway. You come there, you can buy your food, you can buy your drinks, you can buy a phone top-up, and not even digitally, you can still buy the scratch card, which is same like the lottery card, you scratch it for people abroad who don't have the phone top-up scratch cards, and there you go, you get load to your phone. But at the same time, you have a guy going there, depositing his $25, and by miracle, at the end of the country, 300 miles away, the other fella comes and withdraws that $25, maybe minus some marginal fee. And pause for effect, what that miracle is? Well, it's simple. It's featured phone or iPhone solution of agent who is also the teller in the shop, processing the sender and receiver OTP or through USSD code, and interacting through phone USSD-based remittance in its most basic sense of it. So what I'm getting at, this example of the adaptation showed me that regardless how much amount of cash you put front of it, front of the world fintech, how much you call country developing nation, if you have people who are willing to adapt and grow, they will find a way. And to me, fintech is usually going to be somewhere there, somewhere in part of the journey, in those tiny bits and pieces of optimization, in those tiny bits and pieces of links, connections, and small adjustments. So here is the deal. Give me 3 minutes, hopefully, for 3 to 5 slides to go where fintech is. And then maybe 3 to 5 minutes, I usually go overboard, so I need to speak faster, yet slower so people can understand me. That always my chief marketing officer reminds me. And through elevated pitch that has been provided kindly by our friends from Mekong Strategic Partners, so it saved me tons of the time, I'll be discussing where Fintech is and where Fintech in Cambodia can be. So instead of going to the details, let me just brief few examples here, because I'm sure that during this week of Fintech Festival, you will be hearing a lot of statistics, a lot of numbers, so no need to go that much there. But Cambodia digital economy, 3 key numbers to me. 2.65 million debit cards, 80% of Cambodia being in 4G coverage, and 10.8 million people having social account, Facebook account. That's why also our Facebook streaming here. It's perfect marketing tool. So Cambodia digital economy, mainly capitalizing on that we have 25, we have our median age of population of 25. It's simply ready for fintech adoption. When we look at tech startups, and I'm very proud of it because fintech is that category you see on the left side of the screen, we have startups in digital media, and you see there's more than 40. We had big spur in e-commerce and logistics startups. There's more than 30 of those. We've seen development solution, transportation, agriculture, education technology, health tech. I still would argue to my colleagues from MSP that perhaps fintech is every single element of those, but then we have that separate fintech category, and there is more than 50 startups just in recent years. So fintech in Cambodia still plays a role mainly focused on the payments, providing mobile banking, financing, enterprise softwares, provides consumer value, of course, around regulators, payment infrastructure, mobile e-wallets. That's still the current scope, but it's slowly evolving cross-industry. And that word cross-industry will be very important towards the end of the session. So when we look towards the fintech out of those 50 startups, you can see that biggest category on the left is that category with the payments and e-wallets. We have more than 21 fintech companies. I think that now it can be even more in payments and e-wallets. Of course, we have National Bank of Cambodia on blockchain, our very own digital infrastructure. We have any international payment processor, as you could imagine, from Visa card, MasterCard, UPI, WeChat, Alipay, and so on. We have accounting solutions. We have a lot of fintech and impact startups. So I think that Cambodia has enough base to adopt fintech much more than it is now. When we look at Fintech Trends, I will look at 10 top key solutions that our colleagues from MSP were able to put for us together. One of the key and trend number one is digital channels are crucial to banks' growth. When you look at banks in 2017 up to 2019, one of top 2 digital banks here, AB and Aklida, they just burst 3 times and 5 times in their mobile user adoption, where more between them, there's 1.5 million digital bank accounts, mobile banking solutions. When you think about it in comparison to 16 million people of population and everybody saying that Cambodia is cash-based country, I think this speaks for itself. But also what it showed is that digital trends are very important for banking and their growth. One thing that I haven't seen so much in other countries, and it's a trend in Cambodia that has been prevailing since I started my fintech venture, is that every player in fintech, banking, insurtech, and so on, is embracing strategic partnerships. There's been tons of mergers, tons of strategic partnerships between companies, and this is what burst and boosted fintech solutions. So embracing strategic partnerships, not playing in their own playground, has been feature of financial market in Cambodia. One thing that we've started seeing change it is that traditional channels, traditional banking channels, finally, through those partnerships we discussed before, started reaching other more non-banking points of entry to the user journey. You have always the banking solution somewhere. You have always that bank account if you want to have a financially included person. But it starts through simple channels of e-commerces. Then it goes through a credit scoring system that's being evolving. Then you go through standard e-wallets that are there for less banked population. I'm not even saying no non-bank population. And then you have those banking solutions that becoming fully digitalized. This leads towards the adoption of digital payments that historically in Southeast Asia, and Cambodia is among those, has been biggest in India and China. However, it's in Cambodia and in other Southeast Asian countries, it's 11% of population towards pure digitalization. It's already big enough. We call it tipping point. So the point where that standard flat journey of non-digital customers starts spurring in that hockey stick up. We, of course, seeing fintech tapping, as I discussed, across multi-channels and multi-industries. This is extremely important, especially for the inclusion of rural areas and informal businesses. We have fintech tapping into agriculture solutions in provinces, into micro and medium and small enterprises. We have fintech tapping into healthcare, into insurance. So tapping into both high corporations as well as small business sectors has been absolutely crucial and critical for fintech development in Cambodia. We have essentially been facing a little bit of challenge when it comes to 5, 6, 7 years ago. I don't know if my colleagues, probably also if for those first fintech companies who started 10, 15 years ago, they faced it for sure. The cloud computing was always the challenge, cloud hosting solutions and so on. Cambodia is finally progressing towards being able to host our digital and fintech and banking solutions on cloud. Why is this important? It's simply because of speed and barrier of entry is much lower than when you have to have physically based infrastructure. We are not yet there, and I'm happy to speak after Dennis and learn from him from previous session. We don't have yet full digital banking, full digital banks such as Moxis, but we slowly getting there. And cloud computing and its adoption, even by regulator as well as businesses, is been starting shaping us towards that full digitalization in banking industry. One thing that I'm extremely proud of, together with National Bank of Cambodia, they're pushing towards standardization of QR code. This one is extremely important for a country like Cambodia because if you see it, I don't know if you see it properly on the screen, that one screen with probably 8 or 9, 10 QR codes there, that's typical example for past 5 years, 6 years. And essentially it's extremely annoying for merchants, it's overwhelming for users. And why? When you can have one simplified solution, one common QR code that's then being accepted by everybody. And this solution is gonna be deployed probably by end of this year, if not for sure early next year. So common QR code, similar to the solution that they have in Thailand, is definitely going to shape and boost financial inclusion in Cambodia because it will significantly lower barrier of entry. One thing, again, that I've personally struggled with in Cambodia, and there is dilemma for regulators, absolutely, is eKYC. There is eKYC on horizon, but and companies pursuing already eKYC solutions, but there is the dilemma of balancing act between proper KYC solution and allowing full digital onboarding of your customers. One thing that we don't have yet is full digital centralized ID, but we're heading there. I'll come back to it towards the end. And I think that within that, Cambodian population is ready to actually be fully KYC enabled because Cambodian customers love convenience. And eKYC being on board, I think that Dennis was mentioning too, the time of onboarding, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. People don't want to spend hour, 2 hours on board or waiting days for their bank accounts. So again, if you want to explain somebody why fintech is beneficial and you let them go through the hurdles of sign-up process, it's going to be extremely challenging. But once you start giving them more and more convenience, it will further boost the adoption. One thing, together with common infrastructure, I could not mention it, is Bakong. It's the project that Madam Sarah is talking, Deputy Governor, Assistant Governor and Director General of National Bank of Cambodia. They're always talking about it during their sessions. it's important to have one common infrastructure, one common digital currency, because without this, again, every single partnership needs to be done on one-by-one basis. In my company, I would have to go to every single bank and ask them for integration. I would have to spend tons of resources. Users would have to learn different systems. But ideally, with Bakong infrastructure, anybody can use same infrastructure, same system, and connect to absolutely everybody in financial ecosystem. Cambodia is heading towards full adoption of Bakong, and I think this one is one of the key enablers that will change us not more than 5 years from now. Cambodia, as I mentioned, there is more than 21 payment institutions when it comes to fintech industry, hundreds of microfinance and banking solutions together. So for sure, we're facing and bracing for big M&A spur and as competition heats up. But I don't think so this is bad, because every country, when it starts its journey towards adoption and towards growth, will need to have more players on the market. Because if there is monopolization, it doesn't help pricing, it doesn't help consumer. But at some point, if those players come together and consolidate, it definitely leads towards, again, easing up consumer journey. And Cambodia has seen, I think, at least 3 or 4 or 5 major mergers and acquisitions in past 2-3 years, and more are being prepared. So definitely, Cambodian market is finally starting to consolidate. So if I would summarize it, and I hope that, I don't know, in normal sessions when we would have it through other conferences, we share it online, so I think that we will post this presentation to our SFF channel and later make it available for download so you can see the statistics for yourself. But ultimately, to answer those 3 questions that we asked in the beginning and ask that what is that fintech and financial inclusion outlook 5, 10, 15 years from now, not only in Cambodia, but in the region. I must say that I don't believe, unfortunately, that we will be like in China or in India, that we will be 100% cashless. I think that we will be in more realistic middle pool. We will definitely be seeing more cashless. I'm not saying no, but we won't be fully digital. We'll be seeing more blended mix of traditional and Industry 4.0. We'll be seeing much more optimization. Cambodia is heading towards centralized infrastructure. We talked today about Bakong and blockchain solutions. We'll be seeing more common and centralized digital identity infrastructure. I'm sure that we will be discussing it this week in this Cambodian Hyperlocal channel as well on some of the panels. We will see more optimized institutional lending. Perhaps we will see also more decentralized peer-to-peer lending solutions. Cambodian regulators are vivid innovators. And this unlocks so much and so many doors towards that adoption by public and towards a blend of formal and informal, towards blend of traditional and new in that business and commerce sense. Ultimately, Cambodian fintech is definitely heading towards its main goal, that National Bank, Association of Banks of Cambodia, and Cambodian Association of Finance Technology hopes to burst. Not to revolt, but to connect. To bridge traditional with new. To be there without people knowing. And to me, that's the answer, as well as Cambodian unique fintech proposition. Financial inclusion through multi-channel and multi-industrial collaboration. And I think Cambodia can lead as an example and leapfrog with this notion forward. So with this, I would like to thank you. Have a great morning, have a great afternoon, and great Singapore Fintech Festival, World Fintech Festival session. And mainly, stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you.